comments. We've already sent email comments out to the board. Are there any other comments from our members? If so, I would ask you to raise your hand on your Zoom so that we know that we can open up your mic if we need to, or you can open up the mic, and then limit them to just a couple of minutes, so 2 minutes. Any comments from our members right now? Jim?
I just add to what you said on communications from the staff that last week, even before the ice storm hit, the communications from both the lodge and from security and from Rich were all on time and on point and just very informative. So, again, thanks for all that.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? All right. Then moving forward, we're going to talk about our meeting minutes. And so we need to approve our December 22nd, 2025 minutes. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Yeah, so moved.
I heard that from Ronnie, and then was a second from you, Chris?
Sure.
All right. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Any additions, deletions, or anything that needs to happen? All right. Then I don't get to say raise your hand this time unless all my board members have their pictures up. But there you go. I see one, and Bria's not up there. So all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from December 22nd, 2025, say aye.
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 Aye. Bria again.
Bria again. Okay. All right. Thank you. Then we have approved that 8-0 then. All right. Okay. Our financial update is next. And as I said before, Dan Bessie, our treasurer, is out of Africa, I guess, or in Africa at this point in time. And so I believe Rich is going to lead us through the treasurer's report.
Thank you. To start off, this is the end of year December data. So what we have here is our December actuals for the month. We had a 533, almost 534,000 actual to 572 budget. So we were at a deficit of 38,000. For the year, our revenue was a deficit of 75,000. Expenses for the month, we were an actual of 636,000 with a budget of 813, which would show a positive of 177,000 to budget. For the year, we are 44,000 positive to the budget on expense. Net revenue, we were a negative $101,000 for the month to actual to budget. We were $240,000 negative for the month, but actual to budget for the year, we were 138,000, almost 139,000 positive. Year to date, actual to budget, we did go over budget for the year by 31,000. We were $4,000 over budget last year, just as a comparison, and that's approximately about 0.5%. We do have, you can see the asterisks there, the 3 asterisks. We do have a contingency fund, which is a little over $200,000. So any overages for that are accounted for. Just for a year-over-year comparison, Dan did this. You can see the revenue for 2025 was over 6.7 million compared to 2024, which was 6.1. That's a variance increase of 609,000 or almost 10%. Total expense 2025 to 2024, again, almost 6.5 million in expense, just over 6 million in 2024. That's a variance of 468,000, variance of 7.8%. So you can see our revenue grew by 9.9 and our expense grew by 7.8% relatively. Some of the major key ones are the revenue for the lodge. Revenue was $2.84 million compared to expense of $1.425 million. That's $140,000 loss. Compared to 2024, we were $1,050,000 in revenue to 1 and 225,000 in expense. You can see again the variances there. Revenue grew by almost 231,000. Expenses grew by about 200,000. So you can see there we actually improved revenue. Variance you can see is almost 22% increase in the lodge, which is amazing. With Jeremy and all the work he's done, that just shows you how much the lodge is being used by the patronage. Expenses, of course, you're going to have higher food expenses, staff expenses, et cetera. So that went up accordingly. Administration expense was minor, only a 2.8% variance, and golf expenses was the highest, which expenses rose from 1,276,000 from just over 1 million last year. That was a $261,000 variance in expenses for golf, which was almost 26%. Most of that has to do with the water rate increase for irrigation, and all the irrigation expenses for repairs and equipment. For the funding highlights for revenue, interest income was a positive, almost 3,000. Resale certificates, 1,500, more than expected. Building permits, again, a little bit higher for the year. We did great. About $1,000 sanitation fee, and this was repeated almost every month. It was just from what the budgeted inflation increase was. And lodge and food kind of went over those losses. Revenue was down almost 43,000. That was over expected, and that was a lot because of food expenses, all the staffing for the events and the parties, and just the cost of some of the goods was much higher than anticipated. Expenses, public works was a positive 63,000. A lot of these are to do with salaries and benefits of what was budgeted by the end of the year. Golf course was actually positive. The main one there was actually chemicals and fertilizers were lower than expected. Administration, again, about 28,000, mostly due to salaries. Security, 25,000, mostly because of salaries. Roads and bridges, we were $26,000 under budget on road materials. We were over on culvert and bridge, et cetera, a couple others. Lodge, food, and beverage, just a little under 3,000. Newsletters, communicate printing costs up. So the ads were a little bit less. Sanitation, again, disposal feeds, kind of just the fall cleanup and all those things we had for all the dumpsters kind of increased those costs. Reserve funds, everything's in a positive increase. ARF is up almost 70,000. CARF, still with a few expenses, is up about 29. Lake management's up about 23 grand. Golf course reserve is up a little over 32, and CDRF balance is stagnant at 267. That again is lot sales, et cetera. So we don't really have a fee increase on that at all, not applicable. Delinquent accounts, we're at 51 total delinquent accounts, totaling a little over 55,000. That's an increase of just under 5,000 for the month. Interest income earned for December, we finished the year with another 45,000 year to date, 354,000. That's O&M and reserve interest. Initiation fee, we had a great month, actually the best month of the year, had 11 initiation fees for December, so sales were up. We finished the year almost $270,000 on the initiation fee, which is all going towards roads next year. We finished the year with 70 initiation fees. So the total for the initiation fee and interest income for the year is $624,272. Cash balances, checking, payroll, et cetera. First date, we have $369,409. Reserve funds all combined are $5,458,393. Total of all accounts is $5,827,802. You can see some of our cash balances in detail for all our reserve funds, contingencies that I mentioned, a little over 200,000. And then all our investments, we did have some of our investments you can see are still showing 1226, as noted previously with one of the asterisks. The bank actually made a little communication error, so they didn't roll over until the 2nd of January. We've already made a note with Sam Timothy, our auditor, so we'll have that accounted for when we do our audit. Again, you can see the negative there and her note.
Microphone is muted.
Pardon? Was there a question? Okay.
If you got your mic on, please mute it. Thank you very much.
And then lastly, Dan kind of had some notes here about basically financial education of the membership. And I'll just read this off, how to read the treasurer's report. This report provides a snapshot of Lake Kiowa's financial position at a point in time. It is a snapshot. What does it do well? It shows actual performance versus budget, highlights all the major variances, reports, and that's variances from budget to actual, reports cash and reserve balances. What it does not do is replace long-range financial planning. Again, it's just what our current state is, and it's just a snapshot of our actuals. It does not show the condition of individual assets, and it does not show every line item in the budget, which like an income statement would do. Common financial terms that we talk about is O&M, which is your operating and maintenance expenses, your routine costs that we need to run the community. Reserve funds, ARF, CARF, et cetera, those are set aside, funds set aside for future acquisitions, replacements, and refurbishments. The contingency fund, like I mentioned, is a short-term buffer for unexpected or time-related events. Fund balance, that's accumulated difference between current revenues and expenses. And then you have restricted versus unrestricted reserve funds. Restricted legally or policy-wise are for specific uses like ARF. They're only for replacement of certain items. And then you have unrestricted general operations, which are CARF, which is a discretionary fund by the board. And then understanding operating funds versus reserves. Well, Lake Kiowa uses different types of funds for different purposes. They are not interchangeable. O&M fund pays for day-to-day operations like stated, salaries, utilities, maintenance, and it's designed to balance over time, not to generate a profit. It should be a zero sum. A contingency fund is short-term buffer, as I mentioned previously. It's used to avoid sudden assessments or operational disruption. Reserve funds, long-term savings for major asset replacements, roads, infrastructure, et cetera. And it's planned years in advance and protected for their intended use. And then an important clarification, having significant reserve balances does not mean those funds are available to cover operating expenses or that they have enough money to cover the future obligations. They are long-term. Treasurer's perspective, the treasurer's report is one input into the responsible stewardship of the board to focus on remains of long-term stability, transparency, and the care of Lake Kiowa's shared assets. Some frequently asked questions, why does the POA show a small loss but still have cash? Because operating funds, contingency funds, reserves serve different purposes and are tracked separately. Given the size and complexity of our community, being 100% exactly on budget is extremely difficult. This is why 3% contingency fund is built into the budget every year. What is the POA's investment philosophy? Safety comes first. Association funds are managed with a conservative philosophy. Key priorities are liquidity, safety, and income is a secondary consideration. We optimize income given the first two priorities. POA funds are not investment portfolios. They are community resources that must be available when required. The approach reduces risk and ensures obligations can be met regardless of market conditions. The POA has board-approved investment guidelines that allow it to invest only in cash, CDs, treasuries with a maximum duration of 2 years. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I was especially glad that in our town meeting that you and Dan both explained how that all this money that people think we have is obligated already. It's, it is part of ARF-CARF and all the other ones. And it's not just sitting there wasting. So that was enlightening.
Thank you.
Any other board members have a question?
No.
No.
All right. Okay. All right. Then we're going to move on and we'll move on to our committee and business updates. So first one on there is to approve our committee changes. And I believe you have that in your packet. Our committee changes, we're actually removing some people from committees. Let's see. We are way on down my packet here. We're removing 4 people from the Long Range Planning Committee. We're taking, let's see, Shelby Bell, Brant Buck, Bert Blair, and Angela Mouton are all being removed. And then from the Covenant and Bylaw Committee, both Craig Lampkin and Leslie Sweet. Are there any other changes or additions to that? And then I will entertain a motion for it.
Motion by Dylan.
Second
Thanks,
by
Dylan.
Cecil.
And thanks, Cecil. All right. Any other discussion on it? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. All right. All right. That motion passes, and you've approved those committee changes. The next on the list is the ad hoc committee. At our town hall meeting, we discussed the possibility of setting up an ad hoc committee for watercraft rules so that people could sit down at a table and talk about what was on their mind regarding watercraft and rules for the future and what we might consider doing. And so I would like to know, is there a motion that you would like to put one in place?
Motion by Dylan.
All right, Dylan,
I'll
is there a
second.
second?
I'll second.
All right, Bria. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, Nancy, I know, we had a conversation, a one-to-one conversation, and since we've had that, I've reached out to a number of folks, so I know when you're ready, and I don't want to jump ahead for potential candidates. I've got a list, I've got a lengthy list of some across the board that I've talked to. Some agreed to be a part of it, some did not.
And there have been people that have already been reaching out. So over the next couple of weeks, we will set that committee in place if you so approve it. And then
I would like to offer my name.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
To be included.
Okay. And then their charge will be to sit down at that table and talk a little bit more about what we've heard at the town hall meeting, and then really try to move forward to ensure that we have we've taken care of the safety on the lake, the future of the lake, and made sure that people could still enjoy the lake. So sort of a 3-pronged charge for them. And is there any other discussion or questions on it? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did everybody say aye?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any no's? All right. Then your motion has passed.
Do we want to put a list together of individuals for that committee tonight or wait till a future time?
If you would send me names, and then I will share with you what I received, because I've already received some names. Will that work for you?
Yeah,
that
so
would
have I.
be
I've
good.
received some names as well, and then just curious who the chair of this committee is going to be. Should we keep that in place tonight?
I'm not sure who the chair will be, because typically whoever you name first for that committee, they're the chair for that meeting, and then the group will choose a chair. And so that would be my thought for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so we know who all the candidates are. I'm sure we've got a variety and a good list, a good strong list.
There is a list from both sides of the aisle, if you will, for lack of a better term, from what we heard at our town hall meeting. And I know that we've already received some from both that had very strong opinions on both sides. So send me the names, and then I'll put together the list and send it out. and then we can discuss that in from an email and go from there. And then we can appoint him from there. Will that work?
That works.
That works.
Okay. All right. All right, moving on. Then next thing we have Jim Adams and Ronnie Phillips. So Ronnie, you kick it off, and then if you need Jim to fill for you, you can. So Ronnie, the next thing up is in regard to the revision of the golf calendar for 2026.
Yes, this is a request by the MGA, and Mr. Adams, lot number well known, is going to take it over from here.
Thank you, Ronnie. And thank you guys for putting this on the agenda so I could bring it to your attention. But as the president of MGA, we had a meeting, our last board meeting, and I shared with the board the calendar that the board approved. And one of the changes that came out of the changes that you guys made after reviewing the calendar was to change our May play day, what we call them play days once a month, change our May play day from the regular course to the par 3 course. And the MGA board unanimously really wasn't happy about that and asked me to come talk to you guys. And the reasonings being is we had already volunteered, I think it's the September date, to move to the par 3. And then this change happened, and we didn't have much input to it at all. But I'd like to also point out that if we play on the par 3, when you get up to like 80 people, we'd have to end up using that par 3 course most all the day. Where if we stayed on the main course, we're only taking it for half a day. And it's in the spring, so the half a day will be in the afternoon. So that's one thing. The other thing was that again it's just all members playing either way, and so a lot of those people that if they're not playing in the MGA event, they'll be on the tee sheet somewhere else. I won't say all of them, but a lot of them will be. And finally, it's just again, it's hard to schedule, and you can't put the whole group together when they're on the par 3. We're going to have to spread it out and put it over the whole day. So we had volunteered that one weekend, knowing we're thinking it was a little bit of a sacrifice, but we're trying to help and just to utilize the par 3. So I respectfully ask that you guys reconsider and let us use the main course on our May play day that had been changed to a par 3 course.
Okay. Is there, I believe, Jillian, you were chair of that committee whenever we were doing that. And then is there a motion to make that change to the golf calendar?
Nancy, I do. I motion that what Jim has spoken about makes more sense to go back and revert it back to the original way it was, because you will actually get more play of others than MGA members by putting it back on the main course than if you eat up the whole day on that par 3. It just makes a lot more sense.
Nancy, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Jim, tell me again the date.
Oh, hang on. Let me look at my calendar.
It's on Saturday, but I can't.
It'll be a Saturday, May. Coming up. Here it is. May 16th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion?
I don't want to belabor the point because I don't think this is controversial, but just out of respect for the committee, was there a reason for the initial decision, or was this kind of in hindsight, does it make more sense to go ahead and revert it back for those that were on the ad hoc committee?
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, we're trying to free up the main course because we've had a lot of members mention they can't get preferable tee times. So I do not know that golf calendar like front and back like Jim would or Ronnie would. So I can't answer specifics, but that was just kind of the goal of that ad hoc committee was to free up the main course some for the like preferential tee times, call it. But yeah, I kind of think we had a couple meetings and now we're kind of regressing a little bit here. But if that's what everyone, again, I'm pretty, I don't really necessarily have an opinion. That's just what people came to me for.
Is
Okay,
it,
I mean, I just assumed that there was some reason for the schedule. So, I mean, that wasn't, I don't remember if that was stated explicitly at the last meeting or
Well, it was to
we heard
pick.
the reasons why, we heard the reasons why the golf committee wants to move, but why the committee do this in the first place? I can't remember the reason. I mean, other than just what Dylan stated, I guess that's
And it was what
enough.
Dylan stated to free up time on the main course for others other than MGA members. But when it got looked at further detail, the realization was you're gonna take away the whole entire day on the par three now instead of a half a day with times on the main course. So you really gain more total tee times by reverting back the other way.
Okay, thanks.
Sean, another factor was the historical, relatively limited play on the par three at this time. And we expect that to continue through May.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not really opposed to it. I just wanted to just refresh my recollection as to why the change was made in the first place. So thanks, Nancy.
Welcome. Thanks. Good question. Anyone else have any questions? All right, you have a motion before you to change the golf calendar for 2026 and move the MGA play day back to the main course on May 16th. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I counted 6 aye. So is there any opposed? Same sign. Okay. So I have 6, 4, and 2 I'm not sure about. So
Sean voted yes, so I don't know about.
okay, I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good.
Cecil did also.
Chris is a yes.
Chris, yes.
Dylan,
Okay. Ronnie, yes.
Yes.
Dylan,
Dylan, yes.
okay. All right. And Bria was a yes. I was a yes. Okay. All right. So 7-0, it is approved. All right.
Thank you,
Moving
guys.
on. You're welcome. Thank you. We're going to talk about Ronnie, the pro shop, I believe, the patio.
The golf committee, you see your pictures, approved the request for the pergola. Those are some drawings that have been presented. Rich, you can tell them what the cost.
Sure. I mean, and this goes back a couple of years. Didn't get new bids, but we bid it out this similar a couple of years ago. Low bid was about 50,000 and went up to about 60, a little bit more, 60, depending on what you put on there. We didn't have fans or things like that as well. So now I would assume the cost to be 60,000 to 80,000 ballpark. So definitely we require RFP. Another comment from the golf committee or some people on the golf committee, and this was proposed, I think, maybe 8 years ago or whatever it was. Some other people may have a better memory, but there was actual talk of extending the existing roof, basically taking the existing roof line and just pulling it over the patio area. At that time, the cost of that was 100,000 or in excess of 100,000. Now I would assume it's probably approaching 150. Just to throw that out, that was one of the comments from the committee as an alternate instead of doing the pergola to extend the roof. It just might be cost prohibitive. This was our initial direction, so these are the drawings. Jim Fox built these drawings up off of our initial instructions. So we kind of know what this is, and we can move forward with this, or we can go back to the drawing board to say and show you what that full roof would look like. But the cost of that again would be probably twice as what this is. And the MGA WGA has about $20,000 donated, and I think we earmarked 60. So this was kind of in the ballpark that we had initially discussed.
And so, Rich, that would be the covering on top would be just like we have on the lodge patio. Is that correct?
That is correct.
If we kept it that way versus extending out the roof of the pro shop.
Correct.
Okay.
Rich, didn't we have donations from both the MGA and WGA?
Yes, they totaled 20. I forget what the distribution was. I think MGA was 5 because I think they donated the hitting mats or something else, and the WJ was 15, I think.
Rich, will it be totally flat or will it be sloped to some degree given what we've just experienced?
Well, it will be, again, it'll be similar to what we have at the lodge patio. It's got a very slight slope. You don't need much for that. You only need about 1/4 of an inch per foot, but it will have some slope. And
We didn't experience any problems.
We'll have some gutters on this as well, just like we did on that one.
I was just wondering with the patio at the back of the lodge, if we experienced any issues during these events.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Yeah, just some things too is I mean, I don't have noticed the fishing pier roof had a little bit tilted weight, so it tilted a little while. That's melted, that's adjusted. The shade structure that was at par 3 obviously was holding all the ice and melt. We took off one corner so that all could slope down. So, I mean, just to throw those couple things out there, we have been watching for that and trying to address it.
All right. At this point in time, what action do you need to get bids or anything like that before we approve a dollar amount?
Yeah, I can, because of this cost, I'd probably just do an RFP just to get bids. So just either move ahead to RFP to get bids on this, or if you'd like to actually pursue the alternate full roof as well, just to throw that out there.
Just something I'd like to add. It looks great and it would be wonderful just to know and understand from the community perspective that this wouldn't come to fruition until we've got some of our other projects in the pipeline in progress or completed, i.e. front gate, pickleball courts. Members would see this and say, I see things going on here, but I don't see anything happening on other fronts.
Yeah, I share the same concern. I mean, I'm not necessarily against this in principle, but as we're going to get to in a minute, we've got a long list of projects. So I just wanted to talk about staying focused on completing some of the things that are already on the list. Also, this is just it'd be very difficult to quantify, but Rich, do you have any thoughts on potential impact on the lodge and the bar area? Would this have any kind of negative impact on people going over to the
I
lodge for
wouldn't
a
think it
drink?
would have any negative impact. I mean, most they're might have slight, but the major thing is people are hanging out there regardless underneath the umbrellas. Just makes it better.
Yeah.
They have a lot of events that everybody's always congregating around there. I think that's the main purpose.
Yeah, that's probably not a huge concern, but yeah, I agree with Cecil. Just kind of got a lengthy list of projects. Just want to get overextended.
Yeah, are we getting ahead of ourselves sending out an RFP and then not acting on it and have to do it all over again?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, you would like to try to, not send it out there. I mean, I could just get a couple bids just from people I know, just to try to get I can reach out to people who provided bids before and have them update them instead of sending out a complete RFP.
Let's do that.
And I guess the other question would also be, is this what we would want for the pro shop pergola? And so does it look like it would meet the needs of everyone that's out there, especially those that are playing golf, whether they're a MGA or WGA member?
Rich, I know this is just a drawing and a rendition. Size of that patio, does it cover the majority of that patio?
Yeah, it does. If you've been at that patio, you can see
Yeah,
the
I have
difference
a
between
lot.
the concrete. This
Yeah,
basically leaves the outside perimeter sidewalk as existing is, and the kind of rougher, rusticated concrete that's an interior to cover that whole period. It's about, I think, just under 30 by 40.
yeah. That's good size. That picture right there looked good.
And then you can kind of see how that spaces out.
Yeah. It would be well received and used, I know. It's just the concern of where we are with projects is a whole lot of carve.
I
Yeah,
agree.
same thing. The lodge, review that we were doing on the inside. Did we ever get bids on that? Is that in front or behind this? Just again, just generally curious as we walk through that project list.
It's probably slightly ahead of this. They're the person who we received the one bid from is finalizing the drawings to kind of try to send it out for an RFP that we could use to send it out to an RFP. Because it wasn't a complete bid that enough information we could send out for an RFP. So we're trying to finalize all that information.
Yeah, I just don't want to get get these guys to do a bunch of work and then we not do them, and people get irritated with us in general and not even want to bid anymore because we're just throwing too much at them and not coming through with it.
One thing we don't often talk about, we have, would that be available just like we do the pavilion? So if somebody wanted to rent it out for a private party or something like that, is that a possibility?
I don't know. I don't even know if we rent out the lodge patio, do we?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know we do the pavilion, so
Yes.
probably the only day it would be open would be like on a Monday, but
Yeah.
That's just an opportunity. So okay.
Nancy,
So what am I?
one of the things that we talked about is that we have some donations already made. We thought that if we could get an idea of what it might cost, that there might be other donations that would come in that might justify in determining where it would go on our list of projects. So I thought Richie's idea of just reaching out to a couple of the people that had been approached before just to get an idea without approving the project or moving forward with it in any way, but just to have something in the folder. So if it should come up again, we'd have some information.
And then just to make a comment, difference between the RFP or getting bids to Dylan's, it's like I'll be asking these people to submit a bid that they know that it's not going to be accepted because it would technically formally have to go to RFP again too. So a lot of the bidding process, I mean, it's one or half or the other of how you do it. And if you're saying you're alienating bidders, it's just kind of the process. I think most contractors kind of understand that.
Got it. Yeah. Again, if they're just throwing a dart and getting within some percentage, I'm good with it. Just don't want to beat them up too bad. But to Ronnie's point, yeah, if we just want a rough idea where it could be, and then potentially get more donations, if that's the way Ronnie and the lodge, or excuse me, the golf committee kind of want to go, I'm fine with it. So again, I don't know that there's any action needed to Nancy's original point, but I'm generally speaking good with it.
Okay. And then, yeah, I was just trying to confirm, again, like how much do we need to do? I can take this, get some bids, come back again, see what, and try to go back to the committee or see who else wants to do donations. And I think from heard or not heard, I think forego the alternate full roof condition and not pursue that at all.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Rich, would those contractors be ones that have done work around here before and are
The
familiar
ones
with
that
it?
the ones that I've gotten before, yes, they've done work out here.
Okay. Yeah, they know and understand our process then.
Yeah.
So Rich, I think I heard to move forward and get some rough estimates on cost, timeline, material, that kind of stuff. Is that correct? Is
That's
that what I'm
correct.
hearing from everyone?
That's
Sounds
correct.
good.
Okay. All right. Then that's what we'll do is move forward. Any other discussion on that? Okay. Moving forward to E, which is to consider possible revisions to the golf committee charter. Ronnie, I think you're on there for that.
Yes, a couple of meetings ago, I was requested to go back and review the governing documents to see where we stood on those. Covenants and restrictions, the only thing about committees is section 4.01, which says that an architectural control committee shall be appointed by the Lake Kiowa Property Owners Association Board. And specifically as to the issue on the golf committee that has arisen because there seems to be a conflict in what the bylaws require and the procedure outlined in the Lake Kiowa Golf Committee Charter and the nature of appointing members of the committee in the past that historically has been codified into the golf committee charter and the mandates of our bylaws. And generally at the last golf committee meeting, I requested that the members of the committee think about it and then provide me with some ideas, thoughts, and reasons why they thought the golf committee should be handled differently than the other committees. And we had quite a few responses, basically that everyone recognized that that inconsistency needs to be corrected one way or another. But the golf committee members thought that the composition of the committee with the president of the Men's Golf Association and one alternate or at-large member, and the president of the WGA and one at-large member from the WGA, the president of the Couples Golf Association, the Handicap Committee would also be appropriate. That those are the people that have the most knowledge about how our golf course is operated, what its requirements are, what are necessary. Everyone acknowledged that it would be a good idea to have some members. We just added one recently that was not in that designation in the charter, but that it would even be good to have someone who was maybe a golfer but was not a member of any of those associations, or even someone who might not be a golfer, to have some input. I think the main concern is correcting the conflict between the bylaws. The bylaws are very specific that the manner of selecting committees is that the president appoints people and the board approves them. The manner that we're doing it at the present time is being done through the golf committee charter, which was proposed in 2017 and approved in 2017. We have the amendment to the bylaws in 10.01 that was in 2023 that specifically says the president shall appoint members to all committees and may designate the chair, both subject to the approval of the board and specific requirements in this article, referencing Article 10. It has a caveat that says the responsibility of the board shall not be delegated to any committee. And that's one of the big conflicts. It also provides in 10.14 that each committee may adopt rules for its own government not inconsistent with these bylaws or rules adopted by the board or the covenants subject to approval by the board. So we have a choice. One, how we want to address the change. We can fix it by modifying the charter of the golf committee, asking the golf committee to come up with another charter that is consistent with the rules. The golf committee's feeling is that it would be good to just have a policy recognizing the importance of people that are familiar with the golf course in general as having some say in what happens there. They reflect the number of members of the MGA and the WGA that vote for these positions, and that they like it the way it is, subject to it being corrected. And that essentially is where we are.
Ron, if I'm not mistaken, we did do away with the Greens Advisory Group a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
And so they're no longer would be in that charter, correct?
The golf course superintendent and the PGA professional are ex officio on the committee, and I think that's true no matter what.
And I think that's what it says in our bylaws, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. So what is the motion before us, or what is your pleasure as a board to on this particular item?
It would be my recommendation that just the golf committee corrects, I would call it that one line where it says shall consist of. I would for sure remove the green advisories group since that doesn't exist anymore. And then I would just say, use some language like as a framework, they would suggest the president of the board choose these, but that is not limited to, because again, I think you keep the bylaws as they are and fix this charter is Dylan's opinion.
I agree.
Anyone else?
I agree too.
I think that fixes it. And see, one other thing we need to address is the time of the election of the MGA, the WGA, couples golf, handicap committee, etc. Usually fall at the end of the year. So we have the period from January, February, and part of March until the new board is sworn in, at which time generally there's a general approval of all committees in place at that time by the board. So we've got that gap when there would be some people voting on the golf committee that had not been approved by the president and the board.
Yeah, you get into that catch-22 of timing on what that those organizations are doing versus, getting in line with what is appropriate for what's listed board action, and that whole approval through the board. And you just got to make sure we tie that together, and you don't de facto people into positions without doing the right thing, which is going through the standard process of the bylaws.
You can, but we could bring it to the board just and make committee changes as we did today. So if those are presented to the board, to the president, to whoever's on the golf committee chair, and brings those to the president, they can be added to a board agenda in January. And so those people can be named in, and we can remove the ones that are not. So, I mean, I think that's an easy fix that way.
I think so.
Agreed.
All right. So what I've heard is that we're going to send the charter back to the golf committee, ask them to update it, and then it can come back to the board, and we can consider it again. And just as they did back in 2017, we can approve it again as a board. Would that be what your pleasure is? Am I hearing that correct?
That's my opinion. I'm good.
Thanks, Dylan. Heard Sean and Chris say the same. Anybody
Yes.
else?
Yes,
I think that's
absolutely.
all
Yep.
Okay.
Is that a motion that we
Don't
need
ask.
to vote on?
Um, I, I don't know that we need to,
It's their charter, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
not a motion in my opinion.
their charter, and we're not really going to take any approval on the revisions to the charter, which was what was on our agenda. And so we're just asking it to go back. And so if it comes back to us with revisions, then we'll look at approving it at that time.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Larry.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on. And so now we're on the community manager report. Rich, you are up.
Okay, I'll just start, where we always start with funding requests. There's none again for this month, and I'll just kind of go over. I had a up to date through November last year of all the reserve accounts and what the expenditures were. End of year total for the four major reserve funds, we spent $1,906,000. The revenue from the fees that we received was $1,552,000, which left a deficit of $354,000. And from the town hall and some of the comments made about the interest, where that gets applied, really wanted to show that on here. We got $302,000 in interest earned on just those reserve funds. So that brings the deficit to just under 52,000. And actually going forward, I talked to Crystal, and we'll move that revenue, how it shows an income statement, down to where the reserves are, and we'll show which each reserve fund is getting in the interest come. So it'll be more transparent, and you'll be able to see that easier rather than just lump sums.
Thank you, Rich.
Any questions on that?
Will that be an ongoing situation? I mean, in the future, then, Rich, so that the interest on each one of those reserve funds is reported separately?
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what we're going to be doing going forward. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And then next up on project updates, front entrance was a large discussion item. We met with Bluestone. They had received 4 bids. The lowest bid by a large sum was Foster Construction, but it still came in well over the $480,000, which was voted on as kind of what the project sum was. We met with Foster Construction and Bluestone again, and kind of went over some possible value engineering points to try to get that number down. We should have that by the February meeting. But they came with a caveat as well, as we always talk about the bids and how long they're good for. These bids, they're pretty much only going to give them good for 30 days. So this will be a new bid that we'll see in February. That'll be valid for 30 days. So some of this will have to at least give direction and move forward somewhat quickly. And the last time we kind of saw this, I think, as a board in full, was all the way back in last February, which was quite a while, and some of these board members may not have seen that. So I have it in your board packet, but thought I'd kind of go over the whole history a little bit if I can. If this works. There you go. Again, we had the bids for this project. The bid actually came in at 552,000, so it was well above, but we may be able to get that down sufficient, but it's a who knows at this point. And again, just go to history. The existing guardhouse, goes back to 1991. And kind of that's the same state it is now, kind of deteriorated over the years. Way back in 2018, and actually even prior, we had some prior editions before this, but this has been looked at for over 10 years now. This was a first edition from Icon of a revised guardhouse. Actually, Bluestone did another one in 2020. This was actually got pretty far through the process, but the log house came into question. We purchased that log house, and then we tried to do some programming and investigate the use of the log house cabin. That kind of was not feasible. So Icon came back again in 22, and we did a larger guardhouse project, and that kind of didn't fell out of approval over time. So that didn't go forward. The log house reached a certain point to where we demoed the log house, so that was kind of eliminated. So then we went into a whole new process of, again, the guard hut. And the thought was in the future, we would have a POA facility and move a lot of security there. So that's how the guard hut came in to fruition. And then we kind of moved forward to Bluestone, had the vote to what we thought was going to be, the initial cost estimates were around 400,000. So we did a 20% contingency for 480. This went to vote to the community, which was basically an existing guard hut in the middle with basically just renovating the existing guardhouse. So we've kind of moved forward with all that. Came into issues with feasibility. We wanted to design to how we were shifting the lanes in the guard hut. We had a water line in the way. Some other costs really started. That alone was $80,000 in infrastructure. So we kind of pivoted and basically moved the guard hut forward in line with the member lane, or the guest lane rather, right in front of the guardhouse just before the turn. This resolved a couple of the issues we were trying to do as far as the turning radius and trying to do just access controls. So again, just a plan, kind of how this evolved. You can see how everything moved and shifted. So then we moved forward with this to Bluestone. Again, did all the feasibilities with the gates and came in. This was the preliminary before it actually went out to bid. And some of the preliminary cost estimates that were thrown around was just over $400,000. That was back in February 2024, a year ago. So then we moved forward and finalized the plans. The actual final CDs were completed in July. And then those are the ones that went out to bid. Again, you have the guard hut forward, had concrete lanes there, similar to what we have at the guardhouse. The guardhouse will be fully renovated with a new plan. We're going to expand the parking lot, kind of, make that access easier so you could get it further into Kiowa Drive and not have to be pinched by the gates. This was the design and how the current design is, with the stone, the board and batten, the cupola, basically just renovating the existing guardhouse, giving it a refresher. And the whole interior was renovated and remodeled to get them a better locker room, lockers, to get them a little kitchen area. And they still have a workstation area and visitor access, as well as the security chief's guardhouse. When we went into bid, part of the issues is how much was getting renovated and the condition of the guardhouse. So it would be just as economical to demo the guardhouse. So if we demoed the guardhouse, we would probably square off and add those corners to the square footage. That necessarily would be a negligible cost, but we're waiting what those final costs would be with the bid coming later in February. So you can kind of see the plans, kind of how the gates would be, the exterior. And then this would be the guard hut. It just has a shed roof. It's a smaller structure, but still fairly substantial. You'll have enough for 3 workstations. It has the ADA restroom, which would be block construction, and FEMA. Your safe room for the guards is one of the program elements that was desired. This is kind of an aerial view of the plan, and again, kind of what it would look like. And it kind of keeps the same kind of design aesthetics as the pavilion. We would not be doing the future canopy, but we wanted to see what that would look like in the future. Sheltering the area is always important. This is just the gates, kind of how the gates would work. You would come up to the guard hut. You'd be a stop there. You'd have another kind of like 2 gates at the existing guard house. This would prevent people running through or running around the guard hut and be able to force people to turn around and exit if necessary. So that's the current update. Any questions? None? So the timeline, again, we're going to get the bids back. Hopefully we'll be back in the next February meeting with updated bids, something more, or at least closer to the 480,000. Their timeline is they could pretty much start immediately. It'd be 4 to 6 month construction. You're probably looking, probably definitely go through the 4th of July. So we'd have some temporary halt around 4th of July, but we'd have probably some access constraints we'd have to work around because the project probably wouldn't be complete at least until August. So it's one of the temporary things we considered was using the exit double lane, since it's a double lane, as an exit and an entrance, and put a temporary structure out there to uh, keep the traffic flow egress in and out while all the construction's going underway. So that's where we stand right now. We're probably about $70,000 over budget from the initial bid. We'll see how close we can get, and then it's going to be a decision: do we go back out to membership vote, how we can adjust everything else, or try to go back to the drawing board a little bit and see what we can do, and try to get direction from the board from there. But that's the next step: is come back in February and see exactly where we think our best position is.
And Rich, I think in the front entrance meeting that we were at when we looked at that, they were in favor of moving forward with this, but we also discussed that there were maybe some other areas that we could re-engineer what we have, if possible. So still possibilities.
Yes, and that's fine. We'll see what the next bid comes in at, and we'll see if we have to pivot again. But it's just kind of discouraging that the costs are coming in this high. But again, with the 30-day, the bid's only good for 30 days. It's kind of just a market we're in right now.
Well, and the other thing is it's been 2 years, Rich. When
Correct.
We all know what's happened in the 2 year time frame on cost of everything.
Yeah, 2 years ago we planned for 20%, but yeah, that kind of got blown out of the ballpark.
Anyone else have any other questions about that? All right.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
All right, move forward.
Next step is pickleball courts. We've been in contact with Sports Kings, the contractor, and Teradyne, our consultant. Let's see, where did we leave off last time? We were asking for a schedule. They gave us an updated schedule with actually a pending starting date of January 20th, depending on if they could get the go-ahead from Teradyne. Been going back and forth with Teradyne a bit regarding the soil samples that they got, as well as the soil that is intended to be used. Try to take that regardless of the samples and see what kind of additives and processes we have to utilize to make that dirt, that select fill, sufficient. So that's still in process. Before these storms, Teradyne just took some more samples, and we're running some additional tests. I haven't actually reached out since we've had these weather issues, so I'll try to do that tomorrow and see if they've gotten anywhere in the time that's passed. They have, like I said, gave us a tentative schedule of what any timeline would be. They provided us with since the timeline has kind of stretched, all updated documents, certificate of insurance, purchase orders, receipts, et cetera. So we've gotten all the documentation, et cetera, that we've looked for, and we're just trying to get them to coordinate with Teradyne. And it's all going around the select fill right now to see if we can use that select fill and what we can do to move forward. And hopefully, again, I've been saying it, but it could be just any day, any week now, could start going. And as soon as that site's viable again after the ice.
And the documents they gave us, they actually included updated estimates, correct?
Correct. Everything, again, yeah, everything, the purchase orders, everything, because the timeline has stretched, they've updated everything, all their costs, all their estimates, and provided documents of all the receipts that things have already been purchased and spent as well.
And insurance and everything else.
Correct. So yeah, quite satisfied with everything. It's just the process is very disappointing. And trying to actually, like I said, we're trying to make sure the foundation is as good as possible. That's the most important part of the project. So we have our consultant working with the contractor, trying to make sure that it's what we're looking for and make sure there's no shortcomings in it.
When
So
you talk to, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Nancy, go ahead.
Go ahead, Larry. Go ahead.
So if I understand everything right, it's really Teradyne that are hold up. I mean, we're waiting for them to approve a soil sample still.
Yeah, I don't want to put everything on them, but a lot of it has to do, the contractor has their source. It's close, so trucking costs would be low. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. I'm sure they probably could find the correct fill somewhere further away, but it would probably just be logistically not prudent. So it's kind of what the contractor is giving Teradyne to work with. And so they're saying, this is the dirt we want to use. What do we need to do to make it acceptable? And there's been some issues with their back and forth. So I don't want to put it all on Teradyne that they're just dropping the ball on it, but they're trying to work with Sports King to work within those parameters.
Okay, thank you.
It's encouraging that they're working together. They're actually working at all. Come to think.
So at least there's movement. Again, I wish it was better and I wish they were faster. Sometimes turnaround times aren't what we want, and we want to push them a little bit harder. They've been taking longer than I would like, but at least it does show promise.
Rich, did the documents they provided show you how much of the 170,000 they have spent, and specifically on what?
Yes.
And how much have they spent?
The actual out the door costs was about $40,000 in receipts. They did have some other deposits and actual purchase orders, but they didn't have the actual receipts for those yet.
So how much of the 170 have they spent?
You want to say what's accounted for or what they have kind of in process? About 140,000.
And have you looked at what those items are, and does that seem to be reasonable in view of the total price?
Yeah, approximately. The bulk of it has to do with the foundation items, which again, they're not there yet. So I would say their purchase order, they're ready to go of what that cost is, but I don't think that money has transferred hands yet. But those costs are pretty much in line.
So they should have more money than 40,000 on hand, shouldn't they?
Yes.
And we don't know what that number is?
Not precisely. I would say, that's why I said some of it's in process. They weren't cold hard receipts. So that's why I said cold hard receipts are probably around 40 grand spent. But they probably have at least another $100,000 committed, if you want to put it that way.
They couldn't give us an answer of how much money is in what should be a segregated account from our down payment.
I didn't ask that precisely. I can ask it specifically like that and see what their actual accounts are.
Because it doesn't seem like they should be allocating money for foundation dirt when they haven't decided which dirt they're going to use or who's going to bring it or where it's going to come from.
That's what I said. It's not, it's not gone yet. It's kind of what I call it in process.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So Rich, when you talk to them tomorrow, you want to send an update out to the board, please?
Will do.
Thank you.
Next up is Little Wolf Trail. That RFP did go out. They're due, I believe, February 13th. I may extend it. We do have a couple people coming out next week to take a physical look at the site. I've had 9 responses, 6 solid responses, I would say, of people really interested. So, that's moving forward well. Hopefully we can take a good look at the site next week. Par 3 9-hole course, the hitting mats are on their way. They are sent. Those should be delivered within a week. Lake management, we met with Solitude again to go over the tri-marine process. And kind of met with the lake management committee, and we're kind of looking at doing just a pilot project, probably just one cove right now. we're still kind of doing a little bit of our own research, and we reached out to Army Corps and TCEQ. They're not going to require any permitting or requirements, but we're still trying to make sure all our bases are covered and get some more background information on this. I don't know, Cecil, do you have any more you want to add to that?
Yeah, I've reached out to Michael Reinbrand. We're trying, one thing we want to make sure that we know and understand as much as we possibly can about the use of trimarine in other places, what have been the results of it, so that if we move forward with a project, we're confident that it's going to execute the way Solitude has told us it will. The other thing too is, and I'll just speak a little bit about cost, Rich. If we were to, and we've had sampling pulled from 4 different coves, we've identified that probably Cochise would be the ideal cove to do a pilot project. If we were to, and I went back now, I was just there. I went back and looked. If we were to dredge Cochise, it's about a million one or a million two, and that was 3 years ago. This pilot project with Trimarine and their solution would be about a third of that cost for a 3-year program. And again, you don't get every last bit of, I'll call it silt, sediment, muck, out. You get a vast majority of it out. So we're going to make sure we compare apples to apples and know and understand before we step forward and come to the board to ask for the funds. But and again, it it was not budgeted into the 2026 budget, so if we likely would like to move forward and sometime here in the near future in 2026. Water temp has to be above 55, right, Rich?
Right. So, I mean, we're not looking at least until like March or so, March or April, till we actually can implement anything.
What
Yeah.
made Cochise ideal?
The data results of how, from an analytical standpoint of how much it is. The other thing is the size of it, because again, you're looking at some amount of money. You go to one of these bigger coves, there we don't have a lot of flow through that cove, where the other coves you have water running in at some rate that could, dissipate the solution that's going to be dispersed. We'd get a good sampling from an isolated area.
Okay.
And that's all relative. I mean, all the coves get drainage. But that one seemed, out of the 4 we tested, I would say that's probably the best one.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions on lake management? Community manager report. All right, Rich, go forward then.
Public
Report.
Works report. All the road work that was done, finished for the year. You have kind of a outlay in your report of what's patches areas that are scheduled, as well as overlays. Driving range. We're going to actually, I mean, there's a few things there, but one thing I wanted to note is we were going to close off some of the area of the traffic. We're actually going to leave little areas by the side of the driving range building for handicap parking. So we're going to denote 2 handicap parking spaces, but at the same time, try to keep traffic off of the actual, like where the hitting mats are, or that stretch, because really that should just be golf cart. But we are going to put a couple of handicap parking spaces there, so people won't have to walk as far from the existing parking lot since it's so far to the driving range building. Let's see. They've been winterizing everything beforehand. The par 3 fountain did have a little leak, but we've resolved that, and that was fixed. Security update, or let's go to golf. Brian Brown from the committees we've been talked about, replacing the sand golf cart paths. So we're looking into cost and pricing for replacing the sand in the bunkers, how much replacing the golf cart paths would be, in each little segment. So we're trying to get some of the costs for golf for all those projects going forward. Lodge and Tavern. Like Dylan said, we're still working on the bar expansion, but hopefully we'll get the information, send out the RFP. wine lockers. We have 18 lockers sold so far, so we still have 13 left. Security report is in your packet as well. Just wanted to note, the call-in passes have stopped. I guess that's been going fairly well. No real issues with that. And then just talk about administration. You will be sending out the semi-annual membership survey. We did the one in August. This will be the February one. We'll be doing this in every 6-month rotation to go along with the biannual long-range planning survey. And I'll be posting KPI results quarterly, hopefully, once we start getting all this information. I will be sending out an updated one. There's one in that's communique, but it was wrong file was sent erroneously, so I'll have a correct KPI in the constant contact this week. And then just a reminder about the election. Well, the ballots are finalized. They'll be going out January 31st. It'll be a 30-day election, going from January 31st to March 1st. So we'll be sending out a constant contact for that as well. Just an update with all the information. That's it.
Hey, Rich, I have a question on the sand for the bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to redo some of those greens, is the sand going to be impacted there?
If we're going to redo some of the greens in the future, will the sand be impacted?
Yep.
Possibly. I really not the best person to answer that, to be honest with you.
I just wondered, I mean, there's one side that would say no, it wouldn't, and there's another side that would say maybe it could be. So
yeah,
I don't know, because I don't know.
I couldn't give you a definitive answer on that either. So I'll try to ask Brian his input on that. Maybe Lauren,
because I think that could impact maybe some of the work that he chooses to do and when.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good report. All right. Is there any additional business to come before us right now? All right. Are there any comments from the members? Paul, you have to take your microphone off. Paul Sellers.
I did. Thanks. I had a couple questions, but I have more now.
So,
if
hey,
you don't
Paul,
mind. And yeah.
Paul,
yes.
what's your lot number?
1578.
Thank you. Okay.
Couple questions. It seems like because we're late on getting projects done, we're lowering our standard of what, like on the front gate, the population voted $480,000 based on a drawing. Now you're lowering that drawing to this because it's taking us so long, cost is so expensive. If you're going to put it to another vote, you need to have the pictures of the old one and the new one and show that this isn't as nice as the original one. Otherwise, you're cheating us. That makes sense.
I completely agree. And I mean, I can talk to you about some of the value engineering or cost cutting that we discussed. Aesthetics really wasn't part of it. One of the things we threw out is I showed the concrete for the entry. Specifically, we only need concrete for the guest lane and not the member lane because the traffic's bypassing. You really don't have to start and stopping. So we can cut that concrete in half. We really would like to expand the parking lot and change the entry there. But that's about a $30,000 addition that we could save there. The concrete that I mentioned saves about 20 grand. So we're trying to save things that we like, that would be good to do, not necessary, and would be large cost savings.
Right. But what I'm trying to get at is instead of lowering our standards, why don't we finish the contracts in a timely manner and the budget will be what the budget was? Instead of prolonging it so long that now it's more expensive to do less than what we were going to do. Why don't we finish things in a timely manner? I agree with what Ronnie was talking about with the pavilion. It's a great idea to do the pergola. I used to play a lot of golf. Would love to have it. But if you're going to put that, now you're going to do that in front of these other projects. You're creating animosities between our members, including us, and it creates a lot of problems. If we could just finish these in a timely manner, we wouldn't have to change things the way we're having to change them. Same thing with the pickleball courts. Is that contract going to change? Because now it's taken 8 months to get dirt. Excuse me, dirt. The Teradyne can give this company exactly the specifications of dirt they want mixed together. This company apparently doesn't want to mix that kind of dirt together because it doesn't fit in their budget. Now we're going to change it and see if they can work with what this company wants to do. I don't like that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And we will take that back. I totally agree on timely completion of projects, but I think there's also other things that happen along the way whenever we do have projects. But we'll take that back, Paul. I appreciate you sharing it with us.
Yeah, because like I said, we've been 8 months on dirt and we haven't even gotten to another excuse except dirt.
Mhm.
What's next?
I'd like to make a comment, Nancy.
Sure, go
I
ahead,
mean,
Bree.
everything was in complete control of our hands and we didn't have to rely on any outsourcing. Sure, we'd get it done, but I mean, that's the way life goes. We're not independent here with our own contractors and our own resources. We have to rely on other people. I mean, you just got to kind of be reasonable with what your expectations are when you can't get all your resources in-house.
Thanks, Bria. All right, gonna move on. Tricia Stark had her hand up before.
Yes, thank you. This is Tricia Stirk. I had a question for the board. I'm lot 1617.
Thank
And
you.
going back to the ad hoc voters committee that was voted on earlier tonight, with regard to just ensuring that we have a non-biased, advisory to the board in terms of a recommendation, I'd like to understand what will be the process for selecting members of the committee, how many members will be on the committee, and what will be the involvement of the board on that committee.
So first of all, so the process is as I mentioned earlier, is that people are submitting names. And so people have submitted names, both themselves as well as other people have a list, as Dylan mentioned earlier. And so we'll look at all of those. Those names will come back to the board in February for them to vote on them so that we'll have a good idea of who is on it at that point in time. And then as far as the board involvement, I think it's a great idea if the board is not involved with it, because I think it is for the members to discuss along the way. But there will be somebody from the board that is aligned, if you will, to them in some way. So whether that would be the president or whether that would be another officer or another member, I think that's important. But that's my personal opinion, is that we don't have a board member sitting on it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way the board is kept separate from it. But I do think you have to have a link back to the board. But that's my opinion today. And so it could change, and the members of the board may have a different opinion as we move forward. But that's where we are today, Tricia.
All right, I appreciate that response, and I agree with you. I think in order to preserve, an independent recommendation to the board, that's important to have maybe a liaison that can answer questions, but that it's resident driven. One piece of information is how many members will be selected for the committee.
You know what? Unless another board member has an idea of what that would be, or Rich does, at this point in time, I don't have a number on that. I do know that if you want to be in the board room and use the board room, you can't have more than 15 people in there for it to work very well. But if you meet in the Southwest room, then yes, you could have a few more. So, but I also find that if you have more than personal opinion is, again, if you have more than 15 or 16 people on a committee, you'll never move anything forward. But that's just a personal opinion and experience. So
Agree with you. I just didn't know if there were any governing regulations on how many members would be part of a committee, but I absolutely agree with what you've stated.
It is an ad hoc committee. And so we choose basically what the charter would be, and when they are through, they are through. They are thanked for their service, and then they move forward from there. So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that the board this is obviously an important topic to the community, as we've seen from the last several special meetings. And I appreciate that the board is entertaining this ad hoc committee, and I hope for a equal, representation on the committee. I know several members who are anxious to be part of it, and I think we'll do a good job in making recommendations for our community going forward.
And if you know other people, just have them send their name to me. And it's my email is out there, as well as president at the lkpoa.org. So that's probably the best one to send it to. So
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Trisha,
Thank you.
Trisha, I'm sorry, I don't know you personally. Is Dan Stirk your husband?
Yes, he is.
Okay, perfect. He has reached out, so he's on my list to be on this ad hoc committee.
Excellent. I know he will serve you well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Any other member comments?
Yeah, Nancy, when you talked about size, numbers that come to mind, either 7 or 9, you don't want to get too big and you don't want to be too small. And that would include a chairperson. So, just in that range someplace, the objective is to get something done and not volley back and forth,
I agree. Get something done. I agree. All right. Anyone else? All right. The chair would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So move.
Chris, is there a second to that?
Second.
Larry, all right. All those in favor of moving to executive session, please say yes.
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 Okay, great. It is approved. We will move into executive session. We will take a break for 10 minutes. And I'll tell you what, we'll start back at 7:40 board. And then we'll go from there.
We need to sign out of this current Zoom and then sign in again with a different password.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That'd be correct.
Yeah.
This meeting will stay live until we come back from executive session. And so, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.